Welcome back to Mike's Monthly Mix. I am so excited to announce the birth of my first child. It was a very long wait and a surprisingly short birth considering the long wait, but man, I couldn't be happier to welcome him into the world. The only unfortunate thing is that I'm worried everyone will think his name is An Evening with Silk Sonic, when it's actually Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak with special guest host Bootsy Collins.
Wait a minute, this love started off so tender, so sweet.
God, I was so pumped for this one to come out. Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak are two of the hardest working men in show business, and when they dropped Leave the Door Open early this year, I was chomping at the bit for a whole record. And I would continue chomping at that bit for nearly a whole year as they performed Leave the Door Open at nearly every event they played. They would have played this song at funerals if they could have. But after two more singles, we finally got their debut project. And yeah, unsurprisingly, it's good. It's a nostalgic throwback of the highest order made by some of the best people to do justice to a nostalgic throwback. You put these guys in a room for a few hours with assistance from Bootsy Collins and Thundercat, and of course they'll make something good. I'm not saying they would write Shakespeare, but let's be real, I doubt Willie Shakes could write Skate. Bruno Mars sounds great as usual. This feels like the natural next step after his last full-length record. Also, it's so great to see Anderson .Paak reach this level of exposure. I remember playing Malibu on my college radio station and saying, this guy is one to keep an eye on. I've been keeping this eye open for 5 years straight. I'm not saying it's a flawless record though. If anything, An Evening with Silk Sonic suffered from my own expectations. The record nails its concept, but it never really goes above and beyond with it. But then, what am I doing? I'm not processing this record on its own merits, but rather what I thought the record could be. I can't help being a consumer. I want exactly what I expect, and I expect to be surprised in every conceivable way. There's also the matter of the length. This was a sore point for some. The record is only 9 tracks long, and we had already heard 5 of them before it was released. I see where people are coming from with that, but let me make a comparison. Did you play Metroid Dread? That was a game that also got dinged for being short. It took about 6 hours to beat and 10 if you wanted to collect everything. But at the same time, I loved Metroid Dread. I loved my first playthrough of it. I went back to get everything. I've already beaten it a second time, and I definitely plan on playing it again down the road. An Evening with Silk Sonic is short, but it's good for its entire runtime, and it welcomes repeat listens. I think it's just a personal preference on how we as individuals enjoy media. Quality over quantity, you know? But for me, this record is a good time and a high point for both Bruno and Anderson's careers. If I had to recommend a non-single track, I'd say Put on a Smile. Ed Sheeran continues to claim ownership of all mathematical symbols with his new record Equals. I can't wait for when he gets to the quadratic formula. This record is primarily about him getting married and having a child. I'm happy for him, and I wish him and his new family the best. I also don't care for this album in the slightest. It's some of the most milquetoast pop and adult contemporary I've heard from him, which is something considering his last album. That said, I did like the percussion and hook on Collide. Snail Mail dropped her second album, Valentine. Her debut record had some of the best singles of 2018, and once again she has delivered some phenomenal singles. But where Lush kinda left me ambivalent on the deep cuts, that is not the case here. This thing is tight and confident and so worth your time. The lead single, Valentine, is one of my favorite songs of the year. Legendary pop Swedes ABBA have a new album out 40 years after their last. This one makes me confused. ABBA have nothing left to prove when it comes to writing pop music, but also being away for that long made me think they could be rusty, but then I listened to it and it's good, but not mind-blowingly good. It just feels like they picked up right where they left off, which I suppose is commendable after 40 years. I don't know. Lots of feelings with this one. Check out the opener, I Still Have Faith in You. Radiohead put out a 20th anniversary re-release of Kid A and Amnesiac, plus a whole mess of bonus tracks. Most interesting is a version of Polk Pull Revolving Doors, but with the lyrics and chords from True Love Waits, a song that wouldn't see an official release until 2016. Fascinating to see what could have been. Give it a listen. Kanye put out a deluxe version of his latest album, Donda. He also mixed the tracks around to an almost baffling degree. Not only does the pacing now feel off, but the 2-hour runtime does not help. However, we do get 5 new tracks, including the highly anticipated Andre 3000 collab, Life at the Party, and that track is excellent. But again, if you want to listen to Donda as a whole, go for the standard version and not this. Limp Bizkit still sucks. Hey, they said it, not me. The nu metal stalwarts made news this year with Fred Durst's dad transformation, and now they're back with their first album in years. Okay, I don't know, Limp Bizkit kind of passed me by when I was a kid, so I don't really care about them Or this, check out your dad with the swag on the floor. Fred, get a job. I didn't hate the closer goodbye. Courtney Barnett released her third album this month. Courtney's music is the epitome of unpretentiousness. There's no fluff, there's no BS, it's just tight indie rock with lyrics that are injected with deadpan sarcasm. This new record fits perfectly within her catalog, and if you've ever liked a song by her, you'll like this. Check out the opener Ray Street. Damon Albarn released his second solo album, which feels weird given his prolific nature. It feels like ages since Everyday Robots came out in 2014. This new one is a sonically diverse trip inspired by Damon's time in Iceland, though by the end, I think I respect the journey more than I like it. Give Polaris a listen. Idols bring back their brand of claustrophobic punk on Crawler, this time with Kenny Beats in tow. Idols is one of those bands that I admire as a whole and enjoy in select bursts. This new record doesn't change that, but I like what Archduke Kenneth Beachshire adds to their sound. They can still write rock songs that are good and anxious. I especially enjoyed the New Sensation.
I walk to the door with you.
Despite what some haters and investors had believed, Taylor Swift is fully committed to re-recording her past albums. As she herself said,
when something says in parentheses Taylor's version next to it, that means I own it.
What? We got her version of Fearless earlier this year, which I enjoyed, but not enough to recommend on a musical level over the original Fearless. It gave me the impression that these re-recordings would effectively be excuses to revisit these albums, with the bonus unreleased songs being the real reason to check them out. But this new version of Red is different. Yes, it is still a recreation, but it's also kind of an act of historical revision. For context, Red is one of my favorite Taylor albums, and the one that, to me, best represents her strengths. And for the most part, that still holds true with this new version. The songwriting is still just as sharp, but it's enhanced by Taylor's clear growth as a vocalist since 2012. She sounds great on this record. And in case anyone was wondering, yes, on All Too Well, they kept the part where the guy doing the harmony goes, which is really all that I was hoping for. That said, I can't quite say that I prefer this new version of Red over the original. You see, I was really interested to see how they would re-record the lead singles, as they are the songs that are most connected to early 2010s pop. And these new versions, there's something that just seems off. The production is pretty much one-to-one, but the small details throw me sometimes. For example, one of my favorite aspects of State of Grace was the backing vocals that were really processed. And that effect is gone now. Not to mention, I praised Taylor's vocal growth a second ago, but her performance on these songs specifically feels more rigid, like we are never ever getting back together. The part where they go, the old We sounds fuller, like a whole crowd is singing it. The new We sounds like a tax audit. Once again though, the real main course is the bonus tracks. Her rendition of Little Big Town's Better Man, Nothing New with Phoebe Bridgers, I Bet You Think About Me with Chris Stapleton, and of course, the 10-minute version of All Too Well. This is the best example of what I mean by revising history. You take Taylor Swift's best song in my opinion, and you give it the opportunity to just sprawl the hell out. Extra verses, tempo changes, key chains, a 15-minute short film, all of this comes together to make All Too Well feel so much bigger than it ever was. And it's a feeling that I welcome. And that's the case for the whole record. Red in 2012 was already a big deal, but I think Red TV manages to redefine why it was a big deal, giving these songs another chance to stand without the baggage of Taylor's early career. If I had to pick one track to check out, I feel like the 10-minute All Too Well would be the easy answer, but I'm gonna stray from the pack a little bit and recommend Nothing New instead. Seriously, the bridge in that song bodies me every time. Electronic producer John Hopkins is back with music for psychedelic therapy. John's always been a reliable source for electronic bops that make me feel smarter. A track like Emerald Rush gives me the confidence to perform surgery with a spring in my scalpel. This new album, however, is based on field recordings from the Amazon rainforest. It's a neat concept and a gorgeous album to be sure, but I miss the bops. I know it wasn't the point of the record, but I still miss the bops. I hope they come back for the next record, but for now, check out Deep in the Glowing Heart. Converge and Chelsea Wolfe teamed up for a metalcore conglomeration. It definitely has a slower pace than Converge's previous work, but it's a change-up that works in large part thanks to Chelsea's commanding performances. Plus, it sounds really good, which is commendable since this whole thing was assembled in quarantine. Check out Flower Moon. British rock band Elbow put out their 9th album, Flying Dream 1. From all I've heard about them, they seem like a consistently good group, the British Spoon if if you will, which means I should love them. And yet, especially with the more recent albums, I merely enjoy them. I wish they would pick up the pace on some of these songs, but they've got a knack for gorgeous balladry that shines on here. Check out 6 Words. Robert Plant and Alison Krauss dropped their second collaborative album, Raise the Roof. Their first one came out all the way back in 2007, so it's nice to know their partnership wasn't a fever dream I had while playing Super Mario Galaxy. Neither of these people have anything left to prove, so if you want to hear 2 legendary vocalists try their hand at a bunch of folk covers, you can't go wrong here. My favorite was the opener Quattro, World Drifts In. Amine has a new mixtape out called 2.5. Like his last mixtape 1.5, this one is a way for him to experiment with ideas that may not fit on main albums. And the songs on here are definitely Amine at his poppiest. I don't know if this kind of sound would work as a full record. Then again, I enjoyed this one, so I'd be happy to be proven wrong. Check out Colors. Summer Walker dropped the anticipated follow-up to her 2019 debut. This one is refreshingly down to earth, chronicling the full cycle of a breakup with some pitch-perfect pop production. I think it would have been better with a slightly shorter runtime, but regardless, it's an emotional ride worth taking. Check out X for a Reason. We got a new record from the project of Haley Dahl, Sloppy Jeans Madison. A lot of people have been comparing this one to Kate Bush, but I don't think that fully captures it. Imagine if Kate Bush made an off-Broadway chamber pop musical that is equal parts luscious and grotesque, and then recorded it in a cave. I don't love all of it, but it kept surprising me all the way through, and I value that tremendously. Check out Party Anthem. You ever heard of this singer Adele? You know, stellar voice, great sense of humor. She makes the albums that carry the music industry for the whole year after they come out. She's a big deal, and before it even came out, her new record 30 was guaranteed to dominate the charts and hold off all challengers. Hold off most challengers. Now, to be honest, I was a tad trepidatious for 30. I wasn't a huge fan of her last album, 25, outside of a few excellent songs, but the lead single, Easy on Me, really surprised me with how good it was. It also surprised me with how that wasn't the majority take. Then again, I didn't care for Hello until the memes started rolling in. I guess I'm just a little silly contrarian with some of my little silly takes. But definitely not with this take. 30 is great. It's the kind of record that's great in both the expected and unexpected ways. On the former, the production is stunning, the mixes sound great, and Adele's voice is still the kind that wows in its emotional and technical prowess. But on the latter hand, there's a greater cohesion across the album that might make it the best Adele experience so far. And I've gone on the roller coaster. The main narrative around this album is Adele's divorce and the resulting impact on her and those around her. And I think having that clear narrative allows 30 to play around a little bit more with how it tells its story. From the conversation between mother and son on My Little Love to an honest-to-God trap beat on All Night Parking. These changes don't drastically alter Adele's sound, but they perk up the ear and keep you invested across the whole album. I suppose if there's anything that holds 30 back for me, it's the fact that it is still just another Adele album. But again, I'm doing the Silk Sonic thing. A part of me wants to hear Adele's voice in new contexts, which clouds my vision of the actual music in front of me. Though, I think that feeling comes from a different place than with Silk Sonic. Both Bruno and Anderson worked in other sounds before moving to the retro soul pastiche. Adele's always walked the classic pop ballad road, and I would just like to hear her voice in another genre for once, but I digress because it's not right for me to tell Adele what artistic path to follow. Also, and to be clear, I'm not saying this was the main thought going through her and her team's head, but my god, 30 became the best-selling album of 2021 in its first 3 days. From that point of view, why on earth would they want to change anything, you know? It's easily her best album since 21, and I really enjoyed To Be Loved. So that does it for November's releases, but before I close the new release discussion shop for the year, I wanted to tackle records from 2021 that I didn't get the chance to talk about. So I asked you via social media to suggest albums to talk about before the year is done. Rapper McKinley Dixon dropped his third album back in May, For My Mama and Anyone Who Looked Like Her, and yeah, god, this thing is excellent. Stellar jazz rap production accompanied by gripping narratives about trauma, whether it be familial, racial, or societal. I know it's a really easy comparison, but if you're a fan of To Pimp a Butterfly or any of the collaborators from that record like Terrace Martin, please give this a listen. Check out Never Will Know for a taste. The cult favorite indie pop group Men I Trust returned last October with Untourable Album. This is why I have trust issues. If you're a fan of Unknown Mortal Orchestra or that type of subdued yet textured indie rock, you'll probably love this. Check out Tree Among Shrubs. Dry Cleaning released their debut album, New Long Leg, all the way back in April, and I finally found it. Every year we get a British post-punk album that I'm just not huge on. Last year was Porridge Radio, and this year it's Dry Cleaning. I'm not saying it's bad by any means, this is purely an issue with me. I just don't click with it. But if you're into post-punk, you might get more mileage out of this. Check out the title track. Electronic producer Igloo Ghost dropped his second album back in April. I've always admired his production style and how he's able to create beauty out of that which sounds glitched and ugly. This new one, though, is probably his quote-unquote prettiest work so far. I like the pivot in theory and mostly in execution, but for a future album, I'd love to see him work these textures into his earlier, more abrasive sounds. Check out Big Protector. You might recognize Paranol's second album from its place on Bandcamp's best-selling section at any point this year. This lo-fi emo record has been one of the most buzzed about records on the internet for all of 2021. I think it absolutely nails the nostalgic and melancholic tone it goes for, even if it can feel one note at times and the mix can be too blown out to work for an hour-plus runtime. Still, if this is your vibe, this might be your favorite album of the year. Check out Analog Sentimentalism. A lot of people asked me to check out this Underscores album, but what really got me to listen is the fact that it's called Fishmonger, and fishmonger is a funny word to say. This is how I decide what music to listen to. This band strikes me as the muscular baby of pop punk and hyperpop, and this album delivers some of the best hooks from either genre this year. Check out Spoiled Little Brat. Australian outfit Parcels dropped their second album, Day Night. I would usually be a bit skeptical when a band puts out a double album this early in their career, but oh god, I love this thing. This is the Australian disco Wolfpack that I never knew I needed in my life. Please give a listen to Something Greater, you will love it. That is a guaranteed threat. Truthfully, I didn't know what to expect when I started up Lil Ugly Mane's Volcanic Bird Enemy and The Voiced Concern. I did not expect a patchwork indie rock record with healthy doses of psychedelia and lo-fi hip-hop. Then again, looking at the album cover, all the signs were there. Just look at that duck. That duck has done drugs. Check out Headboard. JoJo released her latest project in October, trying not to think about it. I did not realize how wild of a career JoJo has had. She scored huge hits as a teen in the 2000s, then spent a decade fighting with her record label over her third album. She eventually split from said label, released a new album in the mid-2010s, started her own label, and even did the whole re-recording old albums thing 2 years before Taylor Swift. This new album is about depression, but I wouldn't call it a depressing listen. If you want some sparse, understated pop from an excellent vocalist, check out Feel Alright. This lad Sam Fender put out his second album, 17 Going Under, a young Irish fellow making the kind of anthemic stadium rock that would make Springsteen and Flowers proud. I wouldn't say it nails its concept on every single song, but when it works, I'm left anxiously anticipating whatever he does next. Check out the title track. Back in August, we got the second independent record from pop singer Tinashe. This was my first time listening to a full Tinashe project, though I am a card-carrying fan of her past singles like 2 On and Super Love. And man, this thing can get weird. Lyrically, it's well-worn topics about love and heartbreak, but sonically it veers from minimalist IDM to massive synth bangers a la the Drive soundtrack. An impressive album, to be sure. Check out Undo, Back to My Heart. This UK rock band Inhaler made their debut earlier this year. One of them is Bono's son. I mean this as positively as I can. I would have loved this when I was in high school. Like, you travel back in time and put these guys in my rotation along with the Kooks and Phoenix, I'd be a diehard for life. As it stands, I like it, but I feel like I'm late to the party, so to speak. Check out When It Breaks. Bentney have always defied expectations, but this new record, Frosting, might defy defying expectations, combining their usual prog rock with a danceable sound that feels like their take on late 2000s pop. It's a weird situation. This might be the most accessible record by them, but if you were looking to get into them, I don't think I'd recommend you start here. But if you're at all a fan of Caro Caro Bonito or that kind of music, you'll probably love this. Also, I need to mention this now. One of Bentney's members is Ben Levin, who has a great YouTube channel, but he also does these little mini songs featuring 3D cartoon animals on Instagram and TikTok. If these songs were an album, it would be the best album of 2021. Now I'm off to go spend some quality time with my newborn child. Does anyone know which mouth I should use to feed him?